Alright, what I wanted to do today was talk about a topic that has been kind of floating around for a bit now, mainly since the end of Separate Ways, because of the end credit scene of that DLC. But some of that's been spoken about ever since the rumours of a RE5 Remake started, and that is the possibility that Wesker will actually survive the game and then be brought back in future mainline releases. And it's an interesting one. There's plenty of ideas that maybe suggest it could happen, but there's also stuff that also may suggest it doesn't happen. So I guess we'll kind of go over both sides a bit today and then give my own thoughts. So yeah, let's get straight to it. So the big one that everyone kind of goes for is the remakes themselves. So it's been known for a while, ever since like the 2 remake happened basically, that they're pretty much rewriting the games, and that means that the remake versions of the original games are the canon version of the games, which frustrates a lot of people because obviously the originals aren't canon anymore. And a lot of stuff that happens in the originals just doesn't happen in the remakes, therefore that isn't canon. But yeah, 1, 2, 3 are canon in terms of the remake, and the originals are not. That is something that I don't agree with either, but here we are. Obviously off the back of that, that means that the 4 remake is canon and everything that happens in that game is canon, and also that, 7 and 8 are definitely canon. 5 and 6 are still up in the air for now, until they actually get remakes. But I don't think 6 is going to happen personally. Maybe it will, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so the idea behind that is that they're going to rewrite the story, and when it gets to 5, they're going to kind of shoehorn in, or maybe change the ending completely, and have him live in some way, or on the opposite side, have him die still, but there be some kind of clone. Cloning isn't new to Resident Evil at all. It's used quite often, and it's a big thing in all kinds of different media as well. And that's one idea: have a clone of Wesker that is alive and remembers everything that happened, so it still technically isn't him, but at the same time it is. Or rewrite Jake Wesker completely and have him be like a villain and stuff like that. Don't know if I'll do that. I really don't know what to think about 6 yet in terms of a remake. It needs the most work done to it if they do that. But if that's what they want to do, then go for it, I suppose. Now, in terms of him surviving or it being a clone, there are kind of things that debunk pretty much both of those things. Mainly the one where he survives, because if you play Village, there's a throwaway line in the Heisenberg boss fight where he calls Chris a boulder-punching asshole, right? And that happens in the Wesker fight, okay? It doesn't happen anywhere else in the game, it happens at the end, which means, canonically, right now, he did that, which means he fought Wesker, which means he killed him, because that's what happens in that fight. And that kind of maybe debunks the theory that he's alive, but it doesn't necessarily at all exclude the fact that there could be a clone of him. Now, the clone theory, that's a long one, and that's like a whole different video altogether. But if going off of the mainline games right now, there's no mention at all of Wesker at all, and no mention of Umbrella being this shady company anymore. In fact, one thing that I really don't like about the new games is they did this whole thing in Resident Evil 7 about this blue umbrella and it being like a super friendly, trying to fix the mistakes of the old company type deal, and it never actually fleshed itself out. Like, the DLC for 7, the Chris DLC, does kind of go into it a little bit more, but that's it. There's been no mention since, and I need to really get on that, because it's such a core part of the main story of every single game that having it just be a side thing at this point is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, there's no mention of him at all on that part. In fact, the only character mentioned really in the new games that is of any kind of relevance to the older games is Spencer, and all the mention is to kind of have Miranda be shoehorned into the overarching story and have her kind of relevant to the entire storyline of the game, which was a big thing in Village. And if you don't know, pretty much Miranda's super old, and she saved Oswald Spencer when he was stuck on a mountain. She like saved his life, and she kind of let him see her experiments and what she was doing, and it kind of gave him ideas to do what he wanted to do, and they kind of split off from there, but they knew each other basically. It's a pretty cool little story beat they put into the game to kind of include Village into the main story. So there's also little smaller story arcs that are currently just unexplained at the moment. Obviously you've got the new one, which I'm imagining is coming with the next mainline game, and that is the corrupted BSAA type, where they're like using bioweapons and stuff, and I really hope that's the main kind of story beat for the next game, because that is super interesting. And then you've got the connections as well, which is supposed to be like this black market bioweapon dealer group that does have higher ups from the old Umbrella working inside it. So that's also a big storyline that is just completely not present at the moment, that was introduced in 7. That could be something to do with it. I don't know, maybe they're working on a clone of Wesker. That's kind of the theory, that this connections group is working on bringing him back in some way. We don't know yet, obviously, but that is a theory. So in terms of my own thoughts on the character himself and bringing him back, he was a very big part of the storyline for the first 5 games, and a few of the spin-offs as well. Mainly Code Veronica, because obviously that is a big part of his story with Chris. It's like a big conflict part for them. And again, people have mentioned it before, and I do agree, if you're going to really flesh out the character and maybe bring him back, you need to include Code Veronica, because it's such a big part of the character's storyline. And, again, I think Code Veronica is definitely coming, so there will be a remake of that, and maybe they'll change it in certain ways, because you got to keep in mind, like I said, the remake story is the canon story. So any changes made in Code Veronica cancel out whatever story was present in the original game. On that note, it does lead into the RE1 rumored remake. Again, I don't think they should do this. I think the remake we had isn't a 1-for-1 of the original game, but it's very, very close. And again, I don't think they should touch it at all. I really don't think it needs it, and the story still makes sense. Well, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would make a loophole or a story error with that game compared to the remakes, so I think it's fine. I don't think they should do that game, but again, that's kind of down to them really. Personally, I think the biggest, most likely scenario is that the remakes rewrite so that he survives. I don't think they'll go down the clone kind of route, because I think that can get pretty complicated very quickly. I still think you'll fight him. Don't get me wrong, I still think you'll fight him, and that fight will still kind of conclude with him being defeated, but they'll find a way for him to survive in some way or another. I don't think he'll die. Keep in mind, with 5, there is still another game. There is still 6, and the story for 6 is very self-contained, mostly. So whether they try and kind of bring Resident Evil 6 up to par with like the concurrent story, or try and keep it how it is before, I don't know. But if they don't do 6, that means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and Code Veronica, for example, are canon in the remakes. And what does that mean for 6? Did it not happen? Are they secretly retconning that game? I don't know. But that would mean any story up to 6 is what actually happens, and then obviously from 7 onwards it's a continuation of that. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I have a feeling he'll come back in some way or another, whether he's physically alive or a clone or whatever it may be. I think he's coming back. So yeah, they're kind of the leading theories and my own thoughts on them. So if you have anything different you want to add, if you have your own thoughts, do let me know down in the comments. It's a pretty interesting topic, and again, with Code Veronica and 5 being so relevant to the character, it's only a matter of time until we start seeing hints at the fact that he may be alive, or if they're going to just keep him dead. We'll see. So thank you for watching. Remember to like on the video if you did enjoy, and subscribe if you are new. I'll try and post every day and stream most weekends. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.